This is problem 9-3A. If you look in the back of this chapter in the book, through all the questions, they have a question very similar to like this, and it's also learning objective number 3 that'll help you with this. Now, we're putting this, we're journalizing all of these things and how it look for us to update the depreciation on the disposed assets. We have the machinery, forklift, and the truck. We have to figure out what date to put in here, as well as what accounts to. So for the first one, it gives us all of this information right here, and then it says during 2017, each of these assets were removed from service. The machinery was retired on January 1st, the forklift was sold on June 30th, and the truck was discarded on December 31st. Now, since the machinery was retired on January 1st, that's going to be the first one. So we are going to put the date for January 1st in here. Since it was retired, we need to update the accumulated depreciation for the equipment, and then we need to credit equipment so we know that it was out. Now, since it was accumulated depreciation, I had a little trouble figuring this part out. And after looking at it, I think it would be just the entire amount of the accumulated depreciation. For accumulated depreciation, you're going to take the cost minus the salvage value, and then divided by the useful life in years, and then you're going to multiply that by how many years that it's in service for. So say if you've had it for 1 year and it's been in service for 1 year, you're going to multiply it by 1. So it'll just be that. If it's in service, if it's been 2 years since you had it, you'll multiply by 2 instead. And then for the next one, it's the forklift was sold on June 30th for this amount of money. And it also tells us to record depreciation expense on the forklift. So since we're recording depreciation expense and we're not discarding it, we are going to put the depreciation expense in the debit line, and then in the credit line we'll put accumulated depreciation since it's still in use. Now for that, it was the cost, this is my cost right here, $30,600 minus the salvage value. I did not have a salvage value. And then we had to divide that by the useful life of 5 years. Now, because this was only half a year that the accumulated depreciation was on, we have to also divide that by, or you have to multiply it by 6 divided by 12. And it's just easier for me to divide that by 2 since that's what that fraction equals out to. And that gives us 360. So we put that in the debit and the credit column. Now, we need to record the sale of the forklift since we did sell the forklift. And to figure out that, we need, if you look in the book on page 438, we see that it kind of gives us a rundown of how to do the gain and the loss on equipment. For the cash, we put the amount that we debit the amount that it was sold for. For the accumulated depreciation, we have to figure out how much the depreciation has happened since we bought the item, which is going to be the 360 minus the salvage value of 0 divided by 5. And this was in service for 3, we had it for 3 years, so we need to multiply that by 3. And then we need to also add the 3060 because we had it for the half a year as well. So that makes it $21,420. Now, to figure out if it was a gain or disposal, you have to take the cost that we purchased the equipment for, which is $30,600, and subtract the accumulated depreciation from that, which in my case, it was $9,180, which would be the book value of what we would have on the books for us. And we saw that the forklift was sold for $12,240. So we made a gain because the forklift was sold for more than we have it on the books. And the difference of that, we credit that for $3,060. And then in the equipment, we need to credit the amount that we bought it for. And that will record the sale of the forklift. And the last thing we have to do is record depreciation expense on the truck and to record the sale of the truck. Now, because the truck was discarded on December 31st, that is the date we are going to use for the journal to journalize it in our books. And it's going to be really similar to the one that we just did. So do we do depreciation expense, accumulated depreciation? We figure that out. So that is $34,072 divided by, $34,072 subtract 3,064 from that. And then we divide that by 8. And then we've had it since 2012. And we are now 2017, so we need to multiply that by 5. And that's going to give us 3,876. So we need to debit and credit that on the books. Then for December 31st, to record the sale of the truck as well, it's a little different because it was discarded. We don't need to put the amount that we gained off of it from selling it because we just stopped having it. It was discarded. So we'll skip the cash part since there was no cash. And then the accumulated depreciation, we need to figure that out, which we already kind of figured that out before. It was just for the year, but now we need to multiply that by 5, and that's going to be 23,256. Now, since we don't have a value or the cost of the furniture, we have that, which I put down here in the credit column. We take that amount, subtract it by the accumulated depreciation, and we get 10,816. Now, if this was a sale like the one before, we would take the amount that we sold it for, and then we'd get the difference to know that we have a loss or a gain. But since that was our book value and we just discarded this is going to be the loss in the disposal because that's how much we just got rid of it. And that is how we figure out problem 9.3a.